Welcome to the Registered Investment Advisor Podcast, where financial services marketing expert Seth Greene interviews experts, executives, and top producers to share can't-miss tips on how they successfully manage their financial service firms, grow their businesses, create great relationships, and influence the industry. And now, here's your host, Seth Greene.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Patrick Cummings from Northwestern Mutual. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So let's go back in time just a little bit. How did you get started in the financial services business?
Oh boy, a long time ago. Back in 1999, I was working for a large corporation, and I just felt like I was a corporate pawn. I was a sales rep for them, and they kept increasing my sales territory, kept changing where I was going to live. My family would have to move later. And then, it just was all about the corporation. And I called the gentleman who I was working with as a broker and asked him what it was like to be in the financial services industry back in 1999. And it was pretty much a piece of cake. The market was just a constant up, right? And so I decided to get out of the corporate world. I love to teach. And I just thought if I took that same strategy and started building the clientele and teaching people how to make good choices. So got into the business back in 99, 2000, started with Edward Jones knocking on doors and did that for 4 years, built a pretty strong business, and then changed to my current firm.
Well, congratulations on all that. I started in the business back in the late 90s as well. Didn't do Edward Jones, did A.G. Edwards, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. When did you decide to leave Edward Jones and do your own thing?
2004. The managing director at Northwestern Mutual, Paul Hansen, was in the local community. His dad was an Edward Jones agent. They took me on a steelhead fishing trip just to get to know one another, and he recruited me to come over as an investment specialist for Northwestern at the time. That was a different contract. And so I made the decision to make that move. And at the time, it wasn't all about me. It was about helping other advisors build their practices. And so not only some compensation for myself, but compensation from helping to build the agency.
Awesome. So how did you end up at Northwestern, and what does your business look like now?
Yeah, well, I ended up at Northwestern with Paul, working as an investment specialist. 2006, they canceled that contract across the country. It wasn't me. And so I had a choice to make of leaving or becoming a wealth management advisor and doing holistic planning. And so I chose that. My business today, I have a business partner who does a lot of business insurance, buy-sell agreements, bank-owned life insurance, things like that. And myself, I manage a wealth management practice primarily with folks that are retired.
And who is an ideal client for you?
Oh boy, ideal client for me. Number one, they have to be a good person. Number one, right? We all have those people that just you want to put your iron underwear on when the phone rings. But ideal client would be somebody who wants advice, wants to listen to that, wants to build a plan. And for me, north of $500,000 of assets. But again, if somebody comes to me and they have tons and tons of money, but they're not going to treat my team well, then I don't want to work with them.
That makes a lot of sense. Are those folks, are they about to retire, already retired? Are they working in a certain profession? Do they have anything in common?
I would say my primary client is either pre-retired or just retired, or they're selling a business. And folks who are selling a business oftentimes have put everything into that business, and they really need help on the retirement side. So that's the primary focus. I have some young advisors in my team that if we're working with people who are just getting going or going to inherit some money and want to work with a younger person, then I have a 26, a 36, and a 42-year-old on my team.
Wow. All right. Well, then you're covering the gamut for sure. What are the most common mistakes that your clients are challenges that they're having that they're coming to you to help them solve?
Well, I don't know that they know this until we work together, but they spend too much money. The most common mistake. And then they overreact. I mean, behavioral finance is the number one thing that all of us in this industry try and help people with. But, the making mistakes of jumping out of the market when it's rocky, like right now, not thinking about putting more money in if they have it sitting there, always wanting it to go up. That just doesn't work, doesn't create long-term wealth. So I would say overspending. Most people don't have a budget. And to try and get somebody to create a budget is almost impossible if they don't have one. But living within their means is critical, because when you do have a downturn like we're in today, they can't be spending as much out of the portfolio.
Absolutely. And what is it that you feel your biggest value add is? How are you differentiating yourself?
Well, I think it comes down to that behavioral finance, just talking to people, explaining to them how the process works. Warren Buffett's one of the most successful investors in the world. He doesn't overreact when the market's going down, right? I've had some clients recently call me and say, I just want out. I can't handle this pain anymore. And I'll tell them, well, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to see if I can get Warren Buffett on the phone, because he'll buy what you're selling.
That's a great line.
To try and get them to understand that, are you thinking rationally, or are you thinking completely emotionally? And then the other side of it is, we have some very high net worth clients that trying to figure out how to leave the money to their kids, how much to leave to their kids, do they want to leave some to charity, things like that. And so just help them create a roadmap, I think, is the biggest thing that I can explain to people. I'm learning to be a pilot, and one of the most critical things is flight planning, making sure you have enough fuel to get to your destination, and what are the alternative airports if something goes wrong. And the same thing in financial planning. You got to have a roadmap. You got to know where you're going.
Absolutely. I know that you are committed to constantly improving and working on yourself and your business. What are some of the best books you've ever read that have had the biggest impact on yourself and your career?
Well, I would say that Simon Sinek's book, Why, Start With Why, is one. Daniel Pink wrote a book called Drive. I think that's a critical book to read to understand your team. Dan Sullivan, Strategic Coach, he's written a lot of books. The Gap and the Gain, Who Not How. I think the Who Not How book by Dan has been one that really changed my process of thinking, because I would always try and figure out, how can I do things better that I'm not good at? And I would spend time and energy working on that, and it was not the most productive. And so through Strategic Coach, I read a book called Unique Ability 2.0. That book helped me identify where my uniqueness was, and then build a team around me in identifying what their uniqueness is. And once you do that and you build a cohesive team that can run the operation without you, it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fans of both Simon Sinek and Dan Sullivan. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I really love the fact-finding process. I think my unique ability is getting people to open up and talk about things that are truly important to them. And I love that process of sitting down, getting people to begin laying things out. What I find is that the vast majority have never been interviewed to determine what it is that's really, really important. They come in here and they want the greatest idea. What are you going to put me in? How are you going to invest my money to make the most possible return? And when they realize we're trying to figure out where they're going, and then we have an entire tool chest to help them, it's not about swinging for the fence. We want them to hit singles and doubles, and we want them to be a happy, fulfilled life. And so my objective is helping people with that. And then the investment part is just a piece of it, right? So helping them identify where it is they want to go and what's going to make them happy for the rest of their life.
That is awesome. Very, very well said. How are those clients finding you? Obviously, you're not at Edward Jones. You're not knocking on doors anymore.
No, mostly referrals, honestly. Attorneys, CPAs, other business owners that are involved in the community that know, who's selling a business, who's retiring, and we're just constantly asking to be introduced to those people.
That makes a lot of sense. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more, where is the best place for them to find you?
So a couple ways. They can look at Northwestern Mutual. Our company name is Pinecroft Financial Group. We have a website there. They can look me up at patrick.cummings.com. And the other way is through PNP Strategies at Outlook. They can email me. Just wrote a book about building a business, being a family man. It's more about being a family man than being about how to build a business, but PNP Strategies at Outlook.com. PNP stands for progress, not perfection. That's the one thing that I try and help other people understand is we can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so let's just make progress. So.
Well, very well said. We greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. This has been Seth Greene with Patrick Cummings. Pat, thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll see you or talk to you next time.